I think we're live. Jeez. Everyone was telling me they're about to be late. But it looked like Big Ben stepping straight in. Abby says she's going to be a few minutes. So it's episode 3, Flip Life Lockdown. You saying, B?
Yo, what you saying?
Back on your phone today, yeah?
No, still my phone in my hand.
How come it's that? How come the thing is like long ways, like a...
I don't know how to. Is that better?
Yeah. That's it. I've been meaning to tell Abby to do that, to turn her phone sideways, isn't it? I meant to say it. I didn't mean to say it live.
No, man's on the iPad. Man's on the iPad.
Yeah, exactly. Same thing, innit? I think you've got to do them sideways for it to come like normal, innit?
Who we got on the lineup today, man? Who's coming through? Do we got any names?
So I got 2 people. I got 3 people there waiting. I'm gonna have to bring people in kind of like one at a time or something. I don't know how I'm gonna spin this, right? There's one person that I really wanted to get on here though, that I've just forgot that I was supposed to call them before I start, yeah? And that's Terra Slim. So I'm just gonna call him now. Like I'll fucking call him like, I don't know if I should put it on the speaker while we're live about telling him.
That's probably not the best idea still.
Alright, the show, I'm on, we got this thing popping. Is it possible to send you the link somehow then? How are we gonna do it?
Terra's on the roadside. Terra's out there like, yo, forget this. Forget this Rona.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a way to, but it's a bit complicated. I don't actually know how to, innit? All I know how to do is send you the link and then you just join it. You might have to download the app if you're on your phone. I'm live now, bro. Like I'm having this call in front of everyone.
Terra's all there like, yo, what do I do?
I didn't put you on loud because I didn't want to like, do you know what I'm saying? You're loud now.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, what's happening?
But we're not gonna do it like this. We're gonna work it out properly. If you can work out a way to get the.
I can't download nothing on my phone, innit?
Alright, we're gonna work this out at some point.
Someone has done some paganism and I can't take the child lock. I've got child lock on my phone, innit? You know what I mean? Some paganism business.
Child lock should still allow you to download Zoom though.
Yeah. Anyway, if you could get on a laptop or a computer or something, even. But I'm gonna shout you anyway. Alright, let me get all this. Alright, let's not let that take up time. So, what are you saying? Should I just bring someone in?
That's what I was thinking. Right. Let's see who's on it.
Chris Dredd is here.
All right, and which side is he? Pro or anti?
I know he's pro. Which is pro, which is anti. All right, let me just give one little intro. Yeah, obviously I've been mocking people about that whole. We weren't gonna say the name, the letter and the number and the letter conspiracy, and we probably wouldn't. It's already in the title. I was like mocking people about it, but you know, I'm partly being a wind up and being antagonistic. I think people are going to be surprised that I'm going to back down a lot today. You know what I'm saying? Like,
they're thinking, he doesn't believe in anything. They don't know you're trolling them.
Because I'm anti-government. Like, I'm hella anti-government. You know what I'm saying? I don't believe anything. Like, yeah, I do believe radiation is dangerous. I believe, you know, like, it probably gives us cancer. I just think I've probably accepted it to a degree.
You say you believe radiation is dangerous, yeah?
Yeah, of course.
That's a belief you have. Just fucking with you, man. Obviously, yeah. Me too.
Over a long period of time, you know what I'm saying? But not the way it's being described here, you know what I'm saying? So anyway, but I don't let me see. Let's see if Chris Dredd, I'm gonna admit, see if he's there waiting to join. He's someone who studies stuff.
Yeah, is there no one else who's on ready to be a skeptic though?
Yeah, I got someone ready on the other side.
All right, cool. Because you see what? I don't know. I'm not a skeptic enough, and I'm not conspiracy theory enough. So I'm like, yo, I believe, you know, let me just hear your opinion on it. Give me the facts, and I'll try and make my own mind up.
Yeah. Let me see if he's gonna get this now. There was a lot of people like, yeah, there's a few people here, but there's a lot of people that said they wanted to come that are not here. All right, there's Chris Dredd.
What's good, man? What's good?
Yes, brother. Are you on your phone?
Yeah.
Can you turn it sideways? Yeah, see, that works better.
Cool.
If it works, if that's easy, if not, then don't worry.
No, it's cool, man. It's cool. It's calm. It's calm.
So,
Go on, Chris.
What's going on, man? You're right.
So, what's your thoughts on the whole scenario, man? Like, you start wherever you feel, man.
Yeah, it's a lot, man. It's a lot. Everything. It's one of them ones where, you know, there's a lot of ins and a lot of outs and a lot of information to take in, and I think people kind of jump to whatever conclusion they want to based on just what they want, not necessarily on what they know. Do you know what I mean? Or it's one of these things where, you know, some people they believe what they want to believe because they want to just think, okay, do you know what? I'm just going to stay in my house, wait till this blows over. Some people are happy. Like, I saw a status the other day that said, for some people, this is like a summer holiday for them. Yeah. And for other people, it's like a fucking nightmare. Oh, sorry, can I swear in that? You putting it on?
Yeah. Say whatever you want, man.
So it's like one of these. So a lot of people like are just jamming in their gardens, you know, chilling out at home. They're not too fussed about this thing. And then other people are genuinely shitting their pants, thinking, you know, I see people walking around the town, literally like gloves on, like masks on, like, you know, proper, just thinking that anything you touch, like this thing is everywhere. And it's like,
we had some guests on Monday that were like that. Tijan, Kingpin. I don't know if you know rapper Kingpin. He was saying like that.
Yeah.
He don't like.
He was like, he's like literally covering everything, and like he shook. And then Sarah was like kind of relaxed. They were like the polar opposites.
Well, if you just look at the information that the government are giving, yeah, if you just look at that, the way that this thing is contracted is just like flu, basically.
Yeah.
So, you know, you would catch it like you would do flu. So if someone cough on you, you know, even now I heard on the radio when we was in the car earlier, or I think it was the other day, they were saying that people have been cleaning their shopping and that. And they're saying you don't even need to do that. But I swear the information before was like, yeah, when you go shopping, clean all your shopping before you put it in your thing. Like a lot of this is, you know, I'm a conspiracy-minded guy to the point where I look at things and I say, okay, we've been told that by the government that they're doing this to protect people and save people's lives. When we were talking 6 months ago, bruv, you know, yeah, Nova, when you look at the Conservative Party, how many people died through austerity over the last X amount of years? Do you think they give two fucks about saving old people's lives, about saving people's lives? They don't. These people, these old people were dying in their yards.
In 130,000 in a one period of time. I don't know what that was in.
Yeah, over 10 years. So,
but then the skeptics say one of the reasons that they're concerned about this is because it affects rich people as much as it affects poor people, and you know, there's no class to corona, they say, but there is. We see practically.
We see that there is, and I'm still skeptical of that Boris Johnson actually had it, fam. I don't even think he had it, bruv.
That's the one conspiracy I agree with completely. Because that's like, we didn't see it, and it just makes sense because he's falling apart so badly, and yet, you know, he just got the whole country to love him. So it just makes sense to say, oh, and they just carry on loving him and looking at him like a hero. You know what I mean?
Well, it's a puppet show, fam. It's a puppet show, and he's playing a role. He's playing that role. He knew his you know, his likability was dwindling. He's always been, you know, he was voted in on a character basis. You know what I mean? People like to say about Corbyn being the cult of personality. Bruv, Boris was worse than that. You know what I mean? They call him Boris, for fuck's sake. They don't even call him, you know, Mr. Johnson. This is like Boris, like there's brethren. Like it fucks me off to no end, man.
Yep. So which of the theories of corona do you think hold weight, and like what about corona do you think is like really dodgy and that we should be concerned about?
Me personally, yeah.
Yeah.
I think personally that we should use logic and reasoning and be sensible, yeah. And what I think is happening now is mass hysteria and fear is what I think. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that there ain't a nasty strain of flu out there that you might call COVID-19, you might call a coronavirus. I'm not saying that there ain't something out there, because to say end of February, beginning of March, I had a flu that, trust me, licked me bad. And I haven't been ill like that I can't even remember when I was ill like that, yeah. And I stopped smoking about maybe a year or so ago in that, yeah. So I feel like I'm more healthier. I feel healthier within myself. And even I was licked bad for about a week with that, yeah. I didn't leave my boy's room. My missus wouldn't even let me out the room. She's like, "Nah, man, you look like you're fucking dying." Like I was bad, man, for about a week. So I'm not saying there ain't a bad strain of flu out there, or there ain't some kind of virus out there, but we're seeing on the news, even a press conference about a week ago, where they had even the government spokespeople were saying, look, we have put COVID-19 on these death certificates and these people haven't necessarily been tested for that. Okay. We already know that these numbers, people are being allocated to have died of this virus when there's not necessarily any proof that they had it. You know, my sister was very, very ill. I was very, very ill. I wasn't tested. I could have had it and maybe I didn't have it. But maybe there's some people that had it and haven't been tested. Maybe there's some people that haven't had it and haven't been tested. But these numbers are just guesswork, really, you know, is what so what I would say is we need to go off logic, reasoning, be calm about it. But there's a lot of hysteria. There's a lot of fear mongering. The easiest way to control human beings is through fear. And if people are shitting themselves, they will literally do whatever you want them to do. You know, whatever you want to think about 9/11 and all this kind of thing. If you look at what happened at 9/11, the Patriot Act was trying to get pushed through where they wanted to take these civil liberties away from people. And people kept saying, no, 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 we're not having it. But then a situation arose where then the government said, look, we need to do this now to protect you for your safety. People passed it straight away, quick time, you know.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff on the internet at the moment, but even when we don't like talking about Nazis and things like that, but the main rhetoric from the Nazi party was basically, and from China, it's a communist country, their main rhetoric is, we are doing this for your protection. And that is always the thing that comes out is, no, we know better than you, yeah? Listen to us, we're doing this for your benefit, yeah? You don't need to do, and I'm seeing a lot of harmful memes as well at the moment where people are saying, you don't do research, all you do is look on YouTube and this, because then that minimalizes each individual's ability to make their own mind up about something, which means we need to appeal to a higher government or power or someone in a higher position to ourselves in order to know things, yeah? So it's like all these memes coming out saying, oh, you don't do research unless you've done this and cross-referenced all these articles and this. But what they don't say is we're not able to get them articles. A lot of these articles are covered with paywalls and stuff. Like if we really wanted to go deep into what 5G was and all this kind of thing, and then it gets to the conversation of peer review. And I know Nova had a status the other week, and I think a couple of weeks back, where he was talking about the peer review system, and there was a lot of good information in there about how it's kind of a group of scientists that maybe want to keep the certain narrative so they don't allow other conflicting views then to be peer reviewed and this. So it's a very complex situation. Like one of my favorite movies is The Big Lebowski. You know, The Big Lebowski.
Like Big Lebowski's hard.
How do we...
No, The Big Lebowski, what he says is there's a lot of ins, a lot of outs, a lot of what have yous, yeah? And this is the thing that always comes to mind when we talk about these complex things. We like it to be black and white. We like it to be this or that or right or wrong. But, you know, when we're talking about the link between 5G and COVID, there might not be a direct link. You know, we're not saying, not everybody that is talking about 5G and COVID in the same sentence is saying that it's directly linked. That is saying, right, boom, you turn on these 5G things and people are getting flu. It's a lot more complex than that. You know what I mean? There's a lot more ins and outs and what have you.
I got to bring someone else in as well, but let's break that down at least, what your position is on that. And you know, a piece of that kind of complexity.
What you want me to break it down?
Yeah.
Oh, bruv. It's complex because the science is complex, yeah. So you can't just say, you know, and there are a lot of dickheads. Don't get it twisted. There's a lot of dickheads that, without even knowing what they're talking about, because they're into conspiracies and they watch videos and things, they will spout stuff, and they're just that way inclined. You know what I mean? There are people that just say 5G, and there will be dickheads that go out and burn down 5G marks and things like this when they don't really know what it's about. But there is a lot of very smart people and a lot of scientists and people from that community that are saying, look, 5G does this to water and oxygen molecules. And when it does this, because people are saying, oh, it doesn't affect humans because it doesn't go below the skin. All right, calm. I could maybe accept that, yeah. But what they're not talking about is the effect that it has on the actual oxygen molecules and what it does. And there's a lot of scientists that were coming out and making videos, but because the videos are on YouTube and they're not on BBC, people just straight out just denying it and saying, no, it's just some quack who's talking about it on YouTube. And it's like, well, no, these people are like, you know, scientists, and they're trying to break it down and explain to you, look.
I wasn't necessarily saying that. I might come across like I was, but I was kind of dismissing those things just because I'm like, well, I don't know who that guy is. I don't even know that guy's a scientist. Like, nobody could actually show me who any of these people were.
Yeah, but I mean, it's the same with anyone that they push in front of the TV cameras. Like half the time, and we know that on Question Time, for example, they've pushed these people out and said that they were nurses and they were pushing for the Tory party, and these people weren't even nurses. We've seen this happen on Question Time untold times, where they wheel these people out and they say, oh, and they say, okay, what do you do? And they say, I'm a, you know, it's happened on the BBC News, and they've actually been pulled up for it many times. You know what I mean? The BBC have wheeled out people that are supposedly experts in this. Like, I mean, you know, don't get me started on the BBC, man. You know,
the truth is, like, I'm not even saying like those things don't happen and we don't later find out, oh, that person wasn't this. But I'm saying like, like my problem is people are coming out and being like, yo, this is what it is, and they're so confident. But I'm like, that's as much like that's as like that's as much a fact as what is shown on the BBC.
True. No, I get that, man. And like I say, they're them people that will just they think they know 100. And even me, like I say, I'm not saying that I know nothing 100%. Yeah, but what I am saying is I believe 5G isn't necessarily safe. I don't think it is, and I don't.
3G are safe.
What's that?
The ones before were safe.
No, not at all. I don't think so. And I'm saying that whilst holding my mobile phone in a house with Wi-Fi, but ultimately we can't live in the woods in a shack, fam. You know what I mean?
Why not?
But no, but you can. But it's,
you can.
I get what you're saying, but you know what I mean? Like, in all reality, if we're looking at it realistically, like, you know, I can't just drop everything in my life now and just say, right, boom, I'm gonna sell all my belongings, go and buy a shack in the woods and just live there with no Wi-Fi, no electricity, and all this kind of stuff. You know, it's not a possibility for me. So I know that these things are harmful. And, you know, for example, right, I bought a water distiller, okay, because I don't drink water from the taps. And I've been buying bottled water, but then obviously I know there's a risk with plastic and stuff, right? I'm quite conscious of what I put in my body. So we bought a water distiller, and I've got one of these meters that measure electromagnetic energy, right? I've got an e-meter thing that I take around with me. So this thing was
wait. You can't just say that I take around with me and stop and go to the next thing.
Yeah.
You just be testing stuff.
Of course, bruv, you got to.
What what type of thing?
Like lampposts, bruv. You know, my Wi-Fi router, and despite what people say, if you put one of these electromagnetic meters next to your Wi-Fi thing, it ain't really even that dangerous. They're not even pumping out that much. You know, it would have to be sitting on your lap 20 hours out of 24 hours a day, really, for it to give you.
Yeah, the Wi-Fi is. I was looking up the numbers in it. So the Wi-Fi is 2.4 gigahertz or 5, basically.
Right. Yeah.
You man. We need to get back to the meter and what you've been testing. Yo, And when did you start doing this? Why did you start doing this? And where do you do this?
Well, I mean, it's just, I mean, everything that has some kind of heating element or some kind of fan will have an effect. When I went to university, right, basically I went to university and I studied sound design, music technology, sound recording, right? So I understand that waves have an effect on the surrounding molecules, okay? So if you've got something vibrating at an extremely high frequency, it will have an effect on the surrounding molecules and water and air and everything, yeah?
Mm-hmm.
And that dissipates over time using inverse square law, right? So the further away you get from a source,
First square law.
inverse square law, yeah.
Yeah,
So
carry.
if, for example, if I was set, so we learned it on the basis when we was at university of, right, boom, you're going to be a sound engineer for this concert and they're going to have these speakers here. How far away from them speakers is it going to be until the decibels get to below X amount level so people in their yards can't hear it? Do you know what I mean? So the square meterage away from that speaker, we have to work out, right, at this point, the frequency is this, and it's going to be this loud or whatever. And then when you get to an X point, it's going to be diminished by however long through whatever medium. So through air, it's a certain ratio. Through water, if you're pumping waves or sound through water, depending on the density or whatever of the material, you know, it travels more or less or whatever. All right. So when you look at the frequencies that are pumped out from, because everything's emitting frequencies, even, you know, light has frequency to it. You know, so even looking at our screens for a long time, it stimulates our eyes and
don't get me twisted though. I get that electromagnetic waves travel.
Yeah.
And I get how they travel, but I want to know why you test them and where you test them and what you're finding. Are you finding anything extreme, first of all? And was it because you feared finding extreme things?
As well, by the way. And Abby, can you turn your phone sideways, please? Go. That works better. All right, yeah, sorry, but continue.
That's cool, man.
Have you found any like extreme readings?
Sorry, extreme readings, yeah, I have. And it was with my water distiller that I bought, yeah? I bought a water distiller, which would basically, it boils water and it turns it into steam. And then when the steam hits the top, it comes around the tube and it goes into a little thing in the bottom, yeah?
Yeah.
So what I was finding when I put my meter on there, yeah, it was something like when you're watching a YouTube video, yeah, or when I'm holding my phone right now, it's emitting say 2.5 to 6 or whatever. Okay, that just say for argument's sake, yeah. And when I put my thing near this distiller, it was something like 200 to 250 times more than the electromagnetic that was being released from my mobile phone while I was watching a YouTube video. So they talk about the radiation that comes out of phones, but the radiation that was pumping out of this thing that was supposed to be healthy and be doing good things to my water was actually pumping electromagnetic frequencies through this water that were 200 times more than my phone when it's watching something. So man sent it back, innit? And I said to the woman, yeah, on the phone, I said, look, I've got an electromagnetic reader. I obviously am conscious about what I put in my body. I know that this electromagnetic frequencies have the effect on water, and I'm not putting that in my body. You need to send it back. I sent it back. They gave me my money back. They didn't even argue with me. And it was one of them things where there are EU regulations about the amounts of electromagnetic frequencies that appliances can pump out. And this thing just blew them all out the water.
Wow.
And that, you know, I test everything, bro. My kettle, when your kettle's boiling hard, yeah, it releases an extreme amount of electromagnetic frequencies, more than even when your microwave's on.
This is why they say ignorance is bliss, because you know certain things, you know, they're poisoning you all day long. Yeah, like because I know the water's fluoridated to death. Forget me. That's why you need the distiller or drinking spring water out of a bottle.
Trust
But these
me.
times now the distiller's poisoning your water. It's like, where do you go? What are you going to do? Like,
I'm gonna bring someone else through, yeah? I'm gonna bring someone else through. Jacob. This is Jacob, yeah, coming through.
well go on, Jacob. Is Abby here?
Abby's here, man.
I
She's
can't see
hiding,
it.
being quiet. What are you saying, Abby?
And this is the thing. Hey, Gleam.
Hey, Christian.
Oh, yeah, man.
Yo,
Chris.
yeah,
Abby is your code D on this as well. She got your back.
for real.
On what?
Abby knows there's some corruption going on as well.
There's
There
always-
is and always will be. There is and always will be. When you have a small amount of people controlling the many, you're always going to get fuckery.
Do you know what? There's a few people waiting to come through. I'm just gonna add them. Let me just add everyone.
add everybody. Let's see what.
Make it
I'm
so
madness.
everyone's up at the same time, Nova, because
Sir?
make it so everyone's up at the same time.
Do you know what the problem is here? Bare people were waiting to come on, and they've been going because I'm leaving them waiting for too long. Do you know what I'm saying? So
Yeah,
let me
bring
just-
them in, man.
I want to speak to Jacob if we can get him in turned on first.
What's up?
Yo, Chris, you just blew my mind with that electromagnetic.
What's going on with Bones?
Yeah, cool.
Oh wait, we got to zoom into Bones.
Where's Bowles?
Hey.
Oh, I'm going to-
Wait, how do I go to speak of you and select Bones? Like I need to select him without him talking.
Okay, I can see everyone now.
Yeah.
Oh man, like Bones. Can everyone
walk,
see Bones?
Conspiracy theory thing, innit?
He's coming.
You get me?
I'm
What's
more
on,
upset
man?
about the Arsenal
Oh,
shirt.
I got
You
the
get me?
Wayland.
Keep it real.
Wayland.
Protecting myself from 5G and all that.
Oh,
Yeah, why is everyone laughing like?
No, because of Corona.
is that made of?
You know,
that?
people,
What's that
people are going to Photoshop that still.
Bruv, you know them 5G beams are serious, bruv. You get me? Man's got to protect yourself.
You're supposed to protect your neck, fam.
Futurama.
Yeah, you get me?
That was literally an episode of Futurama.
What?
I was gonna say turn your phone sideways if you can, but it's not really that
It's
deep.
gonna be funny.
Oh, yeah. Hold on. Sorry about that.
Can you hear me?
Well, Jacob, I want to talk to Jacob.
5G
first.
is really fucking me over, bro.
Yeah, man.
Jacob,
Is that better, yeah?
Did you hearing the discussion so far?
I couldn't, no, man. I was eating my dinner and that, you get me?
1 minute, 1 minute. Wait, what's this?
I heard a little bit. About what Chris was saying just now.
Yeah.
About the distillery, just the back end of that, and I completely agree. Basically, what is being put out there now is that 5G causes this, 5G causes that, 5G is this, 5G is that, but nobody can actually explain a mechanism how 5G is doing any of that.
Because it's nonsense.
For one thing to happen to another thing, you can't just say, oh, well, this causes this. You have to have a mechanism for that to happen. It's like that episode of South Park with the underpants gnomes, you know, there's always a bit missing in the middle. You got to have a reason, and you got to have an outcome, and you can't just say, oh, this happens because of. So,
All right. Hey, Chris, Jacob.
yeah.
So earlier on, Chris was saying like it can affect oxygen, and it can affect the air around it, and it can affect stuff like that.
It can heat it very, very slightly, but heating isn't the same as ionizing. See, ionizing, it means that it causes the one type of molecule to turn into another type of molecule because it's a shift in the electrons. That's what ionizing means. So if there's so much information about what the difference between non-ionizing and ionizing radiation is. Basically, the way that EMF works is in waves. So it's like you have wavelengths, which is the what we're reading as gigahertz or megahertz. So waves are measured in hertz, right? And a hertz is one peak to one peak, yeah. So that's a wavelength. Is one part on the wave to another part on the wave. That's one peak. When they're so wide, like they are now, in the lower end of the spectrum, they're just not powerful enough to get through skin. They can't break through skin. They can't break through hair. They can't get through bone. They have real difficulty with water. They have real difficulty with fat. And it's not until you get into the higher end of the millimeter wave spectrum that you start getting into microwaves, which can start to penetrate the skin, can start to penetrate the hair, can start to penetrate the bone. And then the further you get into the microwave spectrum, that's when you start getting ionizing waves. And it's the ionizing waves that can cause damage. It's the ionizing waves that can cause superheating, like to heat your food. Because when you're heating your food, all that's doing is vibrating molecules to a point, water molecules within your food, and causing kinetic energy. And kinetic energy causes heat energy, and then you've got hot food. That doesn't happen in the body. That doesn't happen with this kind of radiation at all. It's just impossible. It's literally impossible.
Okay.
Okay,
Any responses?
So you're completely against the 5G conspiracies.
Say again?
Can you hear me?
He said, are you completely anti-conspiracies?
No, I'm not completely anti-conspiracy. I believe in certain conspiracies, but I am completely 100% science and fact-based and evidence-based, because you can't just say something and put it out there without having any evidence to back it up. There's so many scientists have repeated the same thing over and over and over again. For an extraordinary claim, you have to have extraordinary evidence, right? All the evidence so far has pointed towards this type of radiation to be non-harmful. All of it, all of the evidence. So if somebody can bring one piece of information, one piece of evidence to the contrary, it has to be an extraordinary piece of evidence. It has to be conclusive. It has to be rock solid. And
Has anybody got any of that evidence?
No.
Honestly, the biggest issue in the future may be anti-vaccination conspiracies for some people.
Ed, we can't hear you, Jack.
Yeah, your sound is not great.
You got a distortion with your sound.
Oh, wait. Give me a second.
I think what I need to do.
Was anybody else? Did anybody else hear what Jacob said? So Jacob was like, he believes in some conspiracies, but the 5G one, based on the information he's seen, it can't be proved, and most scientists think it's bullshit. Sorry,
only a few
anybody got
scientists.
anything else?
Yeah.
Only a few scientists.
Let me just say the one piece of information for me that is compelling about the 5G having any negative effect on humans, right? The information I've heard from a few sources is basically a couple of people in America have come out and said it. One of them was.
I'll invite me in a minute.
Hello?
You still
Hurry up, Chris.
Yeah. Basically, the information is that what happens with these millimeter waves, we've not really used these type of millimeter waves for things before. People are saying that we have used similar, but we haven't used these millimeter waves at these frequencies. And what these people are saying, people that have worked for telecommunications companies, people that have worked in the medical industry, a couple of people that were lecturers in universities in America have said that what we've got to look at is what it does when you have oxygen. You have it's in two, so it's O2, like the phone network. Funnily enough, so you have O2, and joining those two molecules is one molecule. Joining those two things is one molecule in the middle, yeah. And what this 5G does at the millimeter waves is it spins that joining molecule in between the two oxygen, right? And then the hemoglobin in our lungs, it does something to those to the oxygen where the hemoglobin in the lungs can't take it in properly. So this is the only thing that I have heard linking COVID with 5G. And like I say, afterwards, if there's some kind of post on this or something, I can try and find some of the videos or some of the people's credentials that were saying it. So basically, that is the information that I've heard where people were linking the 5G being switched on to changing the molecules in the oxygen to make people passing out, because there was videos of people in China just passing out on the floor and stuff in the middle of the street and things like that, and that's what they were saying was causing it or whatever. So that's my only piece of information that I can say to do with it. You know, whether I think, you know, I don't think any of this kind of 1G, 2G, 3G, 4G is 100% safe for humans. Human beings, we're made up of water, and when you've got these type of frequencies pumped around all around us, it will have a negative effect on us ultimately. To what extent, we don't really know. We're not too sure. We're only X amount of years into this experiment of having mobile phones and internet around us 24 hours a day, so we won't know ultimately until, you know, maybe another 50, 100 years or whatever the effect it's having. But, you know, I personally don't think it's healthy. But, you know, that's just me.
Okay. So Nicholas, I saw you nodding with him. Oh, Jacob, do you want to respond?
Yeah.
Right,
Okay.
go ahead.
So the point about the spinning of the molecules, right? That's ionizing. Okay, so that's the difference between non-ionizing and ionizing. That the range of frequency that 5G uses and all telecoms use it is non-ionizing. It doesn't have the ability to do that. It's actually ionized radiation that has the ability to do that, change the molecule into something else. So that's things from microwaves, that's gamma, X-rays. That's why you have to wear like a lead vest and stuff when you go and get an X-ray, or you have to, you know, they cover up the parts of your body that aren't being X-rayed because they're vulnerable. They're vulnerable to that thing because it's that kind of radiation. To another point there, you said that we've only just started looking at this. We've been looking at this for 20 years, man. We've had mobile phone networks for 20 years.
But who's been looking at it?
And we've had
Yeah, this is what
we've had.
Can you hear me now?
We've had EMF.
Dover, can you hear me now?
80 putting this stuff out in the app.
Yeah.
And there's not one case, there's not one single case that anybody can say this caused this. This is because of this.
There is though. There's been cases in America where the actual lawsuits have been brought, where they've had these foam masks next to schools, and the cancer rates in the schools have been astronomical.
Yeah, I can attest to that.
All right, somebody brought this up the other day, yeah? That one case, the one case in California where they took the foam mask down, they were made to take the foam mask down. They found nothing. There was no, the levels. They took the foam mask down as a precaution because
it was also one about
what they actually found was in the groundwater. There was chemicals that were being put into the ground, trichloroethylene, which is used to decaffeinate coffee. That was being used by Nestle in the area. They had a well in the area that they were putting their shit in the ground, and that shit was feeding the groundwater, and that increased the cancer rates across the whole county exponentially. And when they stopped putting the TCE in the water, the effects went away, and the effects they dropped down again. Cancer rates lowered again, and the TCE wasn't in the groundwater anymore. That was what was probably causing the cancer. We still can't say 100% that was causing.
There was another case.
It's causation. That's the thing. You can put up a 5G mask somewhere, and
who said other cases?
It could.
LeSean, yeah.
In Chicago, the only people that are exempt from, the only services that are exempt. I'm sorry, guys, the video don't seem to be streaming at the moment, but the only people that seem to be exempt are the fire service, because I try and pull up the link for you guys, so I'm not speaking quote unquote, but there was some cases of cancer and certain ailments that was going on at a certain fire station in Chicago. A few more cases popped up. They took the 5G thing down. Now, in the legislation that come out in America, the only people that are exempt from having 5G towers or transponders anywhere near or in the vicinity of the station are fire officers. So if someone of a public service can do that up there, then why is that? Why would you take them down if there's no issue? Why would you take
the reason they might be not being used around fire stations is because of the equipment that's used in a fire station, and detection equipment, And a lot of the time they just make up these rules like you're not allowed to use a phone in a petrol station. There's no instances, not one single case of electromagnetic radiation or a mobile phone causing a petrol fire. It can't do it. But we're still not allowed to use
the petrol station because it might just mess with the fucking, like, the money.
I use my phone at a petrol station all the time. I had no idea that was a rule.
Yeah, that's a rule. That's a rule everywhere, as far as I know.
I know you're supposed to use your lighter, and you're not supposed to fag by a gas station as well.
So sorry to cut it. You're not allowed to use mobile phones in hospitals either.
Again, have you used a mobile phone in a hospital?
Well, the whole point of that, is because it's a fear that's been unrealized. That's what I'm saying. It's an unrealized fear. It doesn't we're not allowed to use them, but it don't make any difference if we did or we didn't. They're not causing problems.
I know what's actually saying 5G is the problem right now.
It looks like it's causing problems, and it's the same with the fire station.
The phone thing just to do with not being able to, like, it messes with signals. Like, any drug dealers will know, you put your phone near the near your scale certain times, it might mess with it and all of that.
Yeah, same with an audio signal. The way that an audio signal, it will pick stuff up and it will detect things. Maybe it will sound like it's basically just interference, and they don't want that interference to affect the petrol pump, to affect the plane. But they're getting to the point now where they know, oh, actually, you can use your mobile phone on a plane because it doesn't interfere whatsoever. You can use your mobile phone in a hospital because it doesn't interfere whatsoever. So it's just a case of, like, the fire service probably catching up with that. And they set their own rules. Basically, they set their own rules. So
I think it's not even the fact that it's not. I think people have took it way beyond maybe what it actually is, because it's not the actual. It's not a threat right now. It's not 5G. Is not the actual. The way it's being used is not a threat. It's the capabilities that it can potentially have. So it can potentially be a threat. It does come from the military. It does come from military hardware. So potentially, depending on who's using that technology, it could be a threat in the future. So
what do you mean by
5G tech on that millimeter 5-meter tech, the 5G tech and the millimeter technology? It comes from ADS systems, active denial systems, which used and created by DARPA, which is obviously an American company that makes arms and stuff like that. So that's being used right now in Afghanistan, Syria, and he's put out the same frequencies at a higher level than what they're doing commercially for 5G.
What's it for, though? What are they using it for?
So they basically, I just have a look at the ADS systems. They roll up. It looks like it's just like a normal truck. It rolls up. It's got a big radar kind of dish on the back. And
there's footage of this as well. I
can attest to this because I've got friends that are serving. So
yeah,
what does it actually do?
It fires off certain frequency waves. You won't fight after that. After that, you will not fight. Your skin will feel like you're on fire.
But the real cause of coronavirus is food sanitation.
What?
The real cause of corona is food sanitation. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I've been waiting.
Yeah, that's cool, bro.
The important problem that will be after the corona is people not getting the vaccination because of vaccination fear-mongering. And in fact, that is a serious problem because all the evidence tying vaccinations to autism or other disabilities are completely proven to be bollocks. And by not vaccinating a kid, you are potentially allowing them to contract other diseases, because when that happens, there's actually been resurgences of polio and smallpox and measles and things in like some parts of America because so many people.
Now there's actual pandemics and outbreaks of vaccine created strains from the actual vaccine. So are you trying to tell me that they're all safe? Are you trying to tell me when the government can offer vaccine damage payment compensation that it's fully safe? They're telling you straight away, if we're going to pay you out, if we can compensate you, because if you get damaged by this vaccine, it's not 100% safe. Because it's not 100% safe. It takes at least 10-15 years to bring normal drugs to market. You can't bring it's a myth. It's a sham. Anyone that's believing that it's going to be ready in 8 months, 12 months, it's a sham. I'm not even
saying I believe that per se. No, because in the early stages, it will be just a test, and the men are get it out that quickly. But it's because all the different scientists around the world are all working on it, both together and sort of in tandem, and that's why it's going so fast. And the reason people could potentially die is because it's in an early stage. So it's possible, like anything in an early stage, and they're paying you like they pay people to be tested for random drugs and for drugs and stuff anyway.
Go
So
and do it then, bruv. Go and do it. Sign up then. If you think it's all...
I know.
Actually,
You
will.
let me know how it goes.
Go on,
There's
mate.
there's
Go on, you first.
Go and do it, bruv.
Crazy.
Money where your mouth is.
The amount of people who who will suffer from potential vaccine side effects is much lower than the amount of people who will die from corona if most people don't take a vaccine.
Do it then, innit? That's calm.
Fine.
I actually will. Is why I'm like.
Let me just say about a vaccine, all right? Why does it matter why does everybody need to have it? All right, this is my understanding of a vaccine. If I've got 10 people in a room, yeah, and 8 of them have the vaccine and 2 of them don't, 2 of them are going to catch it and die, and the other 8 are going to be fine. Correct? Is that not the premise of a vaccine?
Nope.
Right. So what's the point in having a vaccine then if it doesn't make you immune? If there's still a chance,
make you immune.
What?
Make you immune.
Vaccines in general make you immune.
All right. So what does it matter? Why does it have to be Why does it have to be mandatory then? Why are they talking about herd immunity through vaccination?
I can answer this.
Herd immunity through because.
Wait, Jack. Let Jacob answer.
Yeah.
I can answer this. Okay, so a vaccine is based on a social contract, yeah? Herd immunity is based on a social contract. If you want to be part of society, you adhere to the same social contracts that the rest of us do. So you don't go out murdering people, you don't stab people. You get vaccinated because vaccination, when you vaccinate 10, let's break it down to your 10 people, yeah? Let's say the 2 people that haven't got vaccinated, one of those people is allergic, okay? The reason people get vaccine damage isn't because the chemicals in the vaccines are damaging people. It's because they're allergic to something inside.
HPV.
Probably the mercury.
It's not mercury. It's not mercury. It's thermosol. It's thermosol. It's a derivative of mercury.
I mean,
the small amount of people who will have side effects is very minor compared to the amount of people who are helped by it.
In India, the HPV vaccine damaged 144,000 girls and give them neurological problems. Now, are you trying to tell me though that they still don't cause problems? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
I want to hear about this. I want to hear about this 10% thing. I want to hear about this social contract because it all seems a little. You will do what you are told to do and not question it. When my initial question was, if there's 10 people in a room. Right, if there's 10 people in a room and 8 people want to have the vaccine and 2 people don't, surely the 2 people that don't get it will catch it and possibly die, and the 8 people will be fine. So that's fine. It doesn't make any difference who has it and who doesn't. If the vaccine,
but if those other 2 people had the vaccine, they wouldn't have died.
But it just comes down to the simplicity of consent. At the end of the day, you have a right to turn around and say no.
It's my body, innit? That's what I'm saying. It's my body.
It's like with drugs. You get done with possession, not consumption. I have a right to put whatever I want in my body. The minute you take away that choice, we're not a democratic state no more. We're a dictatorship.
100%.
So if you want your rights,
I have a right to say
no, I don't because if you don't have it, if you don't have the vaccine and you meet someone else who doesn't have the vaccine and want to use a carrier of it, you could give that other person the disease. So
yeah, but they didn't take. But the people,
to other people.
Yeah, but the people who took the vaccine should be safe if they work. If vaccines work, as we're told,
vaccines.
But if science works, then herd immunity kicks in.
You want to take vaccines, okay? That's really important. So if you're immunodeficient, yeah, and you're allergic to something in a vaccine, you can't take the vaccines, yeah? You want to, but you can't, right? So your man next to you doesn't take the vaccine because he doesn't want to, right? He gets sick, he passes it on to you, you die. Right, because he didn't get vaccinated.
It's like
everybody gets vaccinated. It protects the people who can't get vaccinated.
What
not
number?
The people who don't want to get. If you don't
want,
no.
Okay, later you're an ad, you put what you want in your body. It might be legal. I think it should be legal to do whatever drugs you want. But however, do you think it should be illegal to do something that's involved that other people's safety is dependent on while you're on drugs?
Like, listen. If you choose not to take part in the social contract,
about eugenics.
We're talking. You get me?
Eugenics is a good. Eugenics has been used for bad causes, but in theory, it's good.
What? Oh,
God doesn't exist.
What, bro, you're on some nut shit, bro.
Eugenics is good,
Bro,
yeah.
follow the money, man. Bill Gates' dad used to be in PP, man. Fucking hell.
Everybody needs to calm down. Everybody calm down. Wait. Calm down. Stop. Everyone's talking over each other. So calm down.
Can someone just answer my initial question of what is the premise of a vaccine? My understanding was if I take a vaccine for something, that means I can't catch it.
Chris, they did answer you on that. Chris, no, wait. Chris, they answered you on that. They said certain people are allergic to vaccines. So the people that don't take it might make...
But that we're talking about a minuscule percentage of people.
Who wouldn't have got it otherwise? That is the point. Like, okay, most people who drive drunk or drive stoned, like seriously drunk or stoned, won't kill anyone or hurt themselves, but there's enough of a chance that it will. So regardless of how you feel about substance use in of itself, it is both illegal and generally considered a bad idea to drive drunk under the influence of drugs or alcohol. And because that harms other people, so you not getting a vaccination could indirectly harm someone else.
But I'm with Lishon on this one, man. Like at the end of the day, if I personally don't trust what's in a vaccine and I don't want it, I don't want it to be state mandatory for me to have it.
Let me just jump in on that, yeah, Chris. If you don't want to take a vaccine, that's fine, okay? But as part of your responsibility to the rest of society, which if you're going to live in society, you have to adhere to certain social contracts. And part of our society is we get vaccinated. We need to protect the weakest members of our society.
Some big brother shit.
If you don't want to be a part of that, then that's fine.
I'm with you, bro.
No, some big brother shit. It's basically saying that you will waive all your personal rights. If you want to live in this society, you don't have no rights.
Yeah,
and this is the question.
What are you talking about?
Because my right as a human being, is I don't know what the fuck is in that vaccine, and you ain't gonna juke me with it. I don't want it.
Can find out what's in vaccines very easily. If you find out about vaccines and you learn some chemistry, you'll get to know what's in the vaccine.
Listen, Jack, you're gassed, bruv. You're gassed, yeah. The fact is, yeah, you want to learn about this, that, and the other, okay? Like you look like a youth still, bruv. I've got kids, yeah. Have you got any kids?
What?
Dude,
and I'll just ask you.
What's with the ad hom stuff, man?
No, because basically he's saying that.
No, don't take him down. Answer the argument.
I'm asking him, does he have kids? Is my question.
I've got kids.
I've got kids. Oh, we've all got kids, but still.
And basically what I'm saying is, yeah, it's talking about learn about chemistry, yeah. All you got to do is people talk about these things are like, is not scientific evidence, but there are thousands, millions of people over the world, mothers and fathers that have, myself included, my son's autistic, okay? And he had all his jabs when he was growing up and everything like that. And I myself noticed him regress in certain aspects of his development.
I am autistic and I was vaccinated, and my autism and my vaccination has no correlation.
And how do you know this, bruv? How do you know that?
You cannot place
the general consensus of science. The general consensus of scientists from all political affiliations, all religious affiliations, working for completely different causes, is that vaccines are good. And
but you said two words there. You said two words there. The general consensus, okay?
Among people who've studied this their entire lives.
General consensus does not mean fact.
Exactly. General consensus does not mean fact.
What you're saying is
general consensus, scientific consensus is important. Scientific consensus.
To who? To the narrative of mainstream science of what they want the nations and the people of humanity. No, dude, it ain't right. It ain't.
It's not just because it's the base of science. It's all different science from around.
It's money. It comes down to money. All these scientists are funded.
Independent scientists from all
independent. Funded by who though?
Thank you. Who funds the independent? Who funds the independents? We know who funds the independents. It's these elite people like Bill Gates, like the Rockefeller Foundation, who fund these independent scientists. This is how they get their funding.
So
and
Chris,
if you work for me, you pay.
Then where do you get your information from? Where do you get your data from? Where does your data come
with
from?
regards, it depends. with regards to what?
If the publicly funded stuff ain't real, if the independently funded stuff ain't real, then what is real? Like what science
Exactly.
do we believe?
This is the thing. You don't know. You don't know.
Exactly. What is real?
So what are your sources for believing vaccinations are bad?
Pardon? What was that? Say that again.
No, Jacob's going to say something.
The whole like science as a method has been developed for the last 400 years. We've got like fucking methods of doing things and ways of asking questions that don't jump to conclusions and then work backwards. You start off with some evidence. You start off with a hypothesis, and then you make a prediction. And if that prediction isn't right, then your shit's not right. Okay? With this, correlation is not causation. That's really fucking fundamental. Okay? There's a lot of things, cognitive bias, the things that you notice, right? That's all based on recognition. Yeah. The cognitive bias with the noticing autism happening around vaccines is strong because there's so much out there saying, oh, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening, this is happening. But study after study after study after study after study, actual studies that have made predictions, that have asked questions, real questions, the questions saying, do vaccines cause autism? And the answer is overwhelmingly no.
Right.
Overwhelming.
Do you know how many people are autistic in society? The number.
There's been more than 500,000 children been tested using this autism versus vaccines program. 500,000 children over hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of studies, and not one single study has come up with the conclusion, okay, some vaccines may cause autism. It's always no. There is no causation. There may be some correlation in areas because the age that you start to develop signs of autism, it's kind of the same sort of age that you're getting vaccinated. So things are correlating. Of course,
I used to work in. So I'm a pretty much an expert on this, but my son's got autism as well. So, but you can't diagnose autism until 5 anyway. 5 and
at least 5.
Even then, you cannot diagnose it.
I'm autistic. I was autistic when I was like 5. I can back up what this guy is saying. So
yeah, I'm not saying you can't see the signs and the traits, but I'm saying medically you can't full on give someone a diagnosis because they're still developing. Some kids are a bit slower. Okay,
it's between 5 and 8. It's between 5 and 8. My son had his ASD diagnosis when he was about 7.5, 8. His final one. So yeah, it's between 5 and 8. So if it's not vaccines that has caused, and the huge numbers of autistic children and adults out there, some people say it's even 1 in 4 people and children are autistic. So what the fuck is causing autism then?
No, autism has existed for longer. It just wasn't diagnosed. Well, it's just diagnosed.
Not in the numbers. Not in the numbers we're seeing now. Not in the numbers.
Chris, we have got to give him some credence.
Most people diagnosed as autistic are relatively mild, which is also part of the number. And people with mild autism or ADHD or bipolar or whatever
were seen as eccentric or whatever. I understand that, yeah. Like certain people, it wasn't diagnosed. They were seen as eccentric or quiet or, blah, 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 or whatever. I understand that. But when we're seeing the severity of the autism and the numbers is just through the roof, man. So if science is saying that it's not vaccines, what is it? What causes autism?
There has to be some level of overdiagnosis as well. So how many hundreds of thousands of kids have gone into doctor surgeries, this especially in America, not so much here because we've got we got National Health Service. But when you've got a private health service like they have, and it's all funded on drugs, if your kid's acting up, if your kid's being a bit quiet, if your kid's a little bit odd, little bit different, they goes to the doctors. The doctor's going to give them a prescription for Ritalin or whatever, or put them on the spectrum because it's easier than diagnosing a behavioral problem. It's easier than saying to the parents, actually, you're not helping them read enough, you're not doing this with them, you're not doing that with them. I'm not saying that's with every case, but I'm 100% certain there is a massive overdiagnosis of autism diseases, spectrum syndromes throughout children. I'm not saying
autism can also be used as a blanket diagnosis.
Yeah.
And in fact, people can actually have completely different conditions. Someone I know was diagnosed with autism when he was young, and it turned out he had borderline personality disorder instead. And in fact, the autistic stuff meant being at autistic youth clubs and schools and stuff just made him develop autistic traits that weren't natural, and he didn't get treatment for his actual problem of borderline
I was
personality
about to say
disorder.
that environmental factors have got to be largely not in every case, because obviously everyone's individual, but environmental factors have got to be factored in as well, because I have my doubts about the vaccines and stuff like that, but a lot of kids like this, like Chris just said that, not Chris, the other fella, sorry bro, I don't remember your name, the guy with the tattoo, smart dude. Like my man just said, oh, it's gone now.
They're
Sorry,
clapping
guys.
for the NHS outside apparently. My street sounds mad noisy.
Yeah, like you just said.
Oh
a lot
shit!
Of, a lot
Yeah,
of
I
parents
live
go,
Thursday,
right
innit?
where I live.
Yeah.
They're watching this right now, they're getting gassed. You get me? Don't watch.
I guess this has been taken over, and I love that. I'm just sitting in the cup. You know what I'm saying? But
So Nova, how do you feel about vaccines?
yeah, I never had no vaccines as a youth. My parents was anti-vaccine when I was a kid. Like my parents were on some hippie shit like, nah, fuck that. And I had every fucking illness that you can have because of it. And I feel like I can't catch the coronavirus because my immune system is built how it's supposed to be. So I'm slightly anti-vaccine to a degree, but I wouldn't use the word anti. That, you know, I see both sides of it. I definitely am anti-enforced vaccine because I just don't like the idea of it. But I'm also
Everyone's clapping for the NHS right now, guys. Are you?
I'm anti-enforced vaccine, but I think everyone should take it. That is like how I feel.
yeah, and you know what, Jack? That is great, but you know what? There should always be a choice, bro. I don't care what
Yeah.
the narrative, what the agenda is, what the issue is. In everything, there should always be a choice. It's just more of the state taking rules away from people again. And are you gonna sacrifice yourself in the name of national health? Do you know what I mean?
Also, when Jacob, when you was talking about the social contract, I agreed with you to an extent. I agreed with you to an extent, but I was thinking about the world we live in ain't like that though. You get me? So there's a bunch of people who don't pay tax, and there's a bunch of people who die because of that. There's a bunch of pharmaceutical companies who get away with murder, and they don't face no consequences. There are police officers who kill people and have no accountability. We don't live in a world where you don't get your choice. So if Chris don't want to get injected with something, even if it puts another citizens at risk, like to a small percentage, I don't think we live in a society enough where that argument can be made where he should have to take it.
Whose
Even if
rights
it's at risk
trump
of
the
other
others?
people.
Yeah.
When man don't pay tax, that puts the most vulnerable at risk in society.
Let's go and clap and back and back.
The social contract don't require that we care about everybody. That's not what the social contract. If it did, we'd live in a better society, but we don't. Do you know what I'm saying?
The social contract.
If he doesn't want to inject something inside his body, that right? I don't know. In my mind, it's more important.
Nova.
Yeah, man. It sets a precedent for what else are you gonna get stripped away from you? What else comes afterwards? It's not just right now. What comes afterwards? If you agree to this now, what else are you gonna have to agree to? What else are you gonna have to get stripped away? Because at the end of the day, when it gets put in a certain way, like it is for the better for you, people are gonna worry. There's a lot of misinformation out there. There's so much information. People are that worried that they may worry themselves into getting it or not getting it because of the information that's out there, because there's so much. Nobody knows what to believe and what is credible and what's not. So it's about making informed choices. And if you try and turn around and say parents and adults alike can't make these informed choices for themselves, then what the fuck are we here for? We might as well just give them all our rights and say, yo, you rule my life. We might as well be North Korea. That's what it might as well be. Might as well be a communist state. That's what it might as well be.
That's not what a communist is. Communism is an economic module. The North Koreans' dictatorship is it being authoritarian.
Brother, you understood the metaphor. We don't need to go there, bro.
Let me jump in for a
I'm
second.
clearing up your misconception because it's
Jumping in.
important.
Give some of man talk, man. Hear your voice enough.
The way I was putting it.
Let me jump in, yeah?
Who's trying to jump in?
Let him speak. Let him speak. Let him speak. Let someone speak. Come on, man.
One at a
Go
time.
and speak. Who's speaking?
You're
Me. Let me
speaking,
talk.
because you've been sitting in the cut a minute.
Yeah, no, I'm welcome to watch
Colin, then
three
Jacob.
brothers talk.
Colin, then Jacob.
Who's
Yo,
it? Me?
yeah, I'm just saying. Yo, who's going? Who's going first?
Colin, then Jacob.
Bro, yeah. So I'm just catching up with this thing here.
Nova, is your daughter vaccinated?
When people are talking about this social thing, about you got to pay this be in line with what we're required to do. It's mad because we don't do it on our levels. Like if that was the case, if we're out here trying to protect mankind, why are we selling cigarettes, alcohol, and them things there? Why is there in any black area you go, there's fucking how many fried chicken shops on the road, bro? So it don't make sense to me. On one hand, we're meant to be protecting humans by saying, all right, everyone has to get his vaccine, but on the other hand, we're full of them as shit. So what is it? You know what I'm saying?
People starving all over the world with unsanitized water, that have not got food, that have not got homes, that have not got clothes, that have not got education. Exactly. We've not got money for that, but we got money to vaccinate everyone.
Exactly.
If you
need money to go help the homeless and all this, we ain't got money. But then when there's a war or something, there's money there straight away. So you got to think that it doesn't make sense when people say that it's all this stuff for our protection. It doesn't make sense because we don't do that on all levels. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. Like if you got cancer, you go and get the treatment. More people have the treatment than the actual cancer. You go for your chemo. You know what I'm saying? So when people say things, I'm like, that I hear what you're saying, and that kind of makes sense if everything else followed suit of that, but it doesn't. Do you know what I mean? I'm not trying to belittle anyone's faults because I love what I heard. Like, it's the first time I heard some of the things talking, but yeah, man, and let's not try and turn this into a trolling thing. I see man sticking up his fingers and everything. You don't want to do that. Man's a gangster, you get me? I'm only joking. I'm joking.
Let me jump in.
Let's put some humor in this though, man. Let's you know what I mean? Let's try and listen to each other's opinion without shutting each other down because, you know what I mean? There's enough evidence there to support most sides. You know what I mean? Like you said, there's a lot of information in there. You can prove one thing one day and disprove it the next day. So the means you have to go, what makes sense? That's just my point of view anyway. Let me let someone else talk.
Let me jump in quickly. Okay, so people were talking about choices, yeah? And I agree, yeah? Choices are great. It's good to have choices. And in the social contract that we have in this country, we talk about choices. It doesn't necessarily take away your choices to get vaccinated. But what you're doing by not getting vaccinated is taking away the choices of somebody who can't get vaccinated.
Yeah, I get that.
So you can't get vaccinated, and you know that there's people in your workplace or people in your kids' school who aren't vaccinated, then you're not going to be able to send your children to that place because you know that they could get sick, they could die because there's people in that school or in that youth club or whatever that aren't vaccinated. So you have no choice. You have to homeschool your kids at that point because there are people out there in society who aren't vaccinated. They have a choice and they're choosing to break the social contract. There's so many things that break social contracts, of course there are, but it doesn't mean to say that all those things are good things or all those things are right things. Like you're saying, Ben, about not paying your taxes. Yeah, there's loads of people who don't pay their taxes. So why should people get vaccinated? Well, those people should pay their taxes. It's wrong that they don't. That's all I'm saying. If you're going to be part of a social, if you're going to choose to break the social contract by saying I'm not going to be vaccinated, you shouldn't, and that's your choice. You shouldn't take the choices away from other people, and you should do what you can to remove yourself from places where you could harm other people by not being a vaccinated person. Like if you choose not to vaccinate your children, then you should probably homeschool your children so they don't harm other children potentially. Because if they get measles and they give it to somebody who could die from measles because they can't be vaccinated, then you've taken away their choices.
I also feel like we're talking about vaccinations as like a big broad umbrella. So are we now talking about corona vaccinations or are we talking about measles, mumps and rubella?
I think it's vaccines in general. Like I think with vaccines and medication, like if you don't know what's in something, then you should have a right to say, no, I don't want to take it. Just like when you get medication or you're prescribed medication for whatever illness.
So find out what's in it. Find out what's in it.
Yeah, you find out what's in it. Are they going to provide that information to everybody? Or do they? Are they?
They have to.
I don't understand that information either. Do you know what I'm saying? Because I'm not a scientist. I'm not a doctor. I don't know how easy it is for me to understand the information of what's in there. So
ask your doctor.
If you don't understand it, you should listen to people who are. They're talking about vaccinations. We're not listening to the government. We're listening to medical experts.
Also, can I just say, like, people need time to be able to research certain things. And also with vaccinations, just like medication, some medications work for some people and some it doesn't work. And
yeah, that's the problem. I was reading up on something. It's saying like
for someone, for another
one cap fits all ain't the one.
So it's like, it's all about side effects and not everybody can take the same medication, whether it's an injection, a tablet, whatever. Like, so
vaccine isn't a cure.
To know and to be able to consult their GP, they might have underlying health conditions and this vaccine could go fuck them up even more.
Mm-hmm.
So you should have a period of time where you have a consultation. And if it's not suitable for you, you don't have it. It's not our fault if having a vaccine is going to make us more ill or bring on more like illness or make us even more poorly than we
But
are.
then some people won't know the vaccine's gonna fuck them up till they actually take it. You know what I mean? So
Everyone here though, yeah.
like if you know that you've got an underlying condition, it could be anything. It could be
Yeah.
diabetes, high blood pressure,
Yeah.
problem, whatever it is, it doesn't matter. If you've got an underlying health condition and a vaccine's put out there, you need to know whether it, like some things, some diabetics can't take certain medication, for example. Some diabetics can't have certain operations, for example.
Yeah,
Do you see
yeah.
what I'm saying? Because it will
Hey,
just
Rob, I'm diabetic. Why you throwing me under the bus?
I
Everyone's case is individual, man. Come on, man.
I'm playing.
I didn't know you were diabetic.
I'm saying in general, like diabetes, like there's certain things you can't even have just from having diabetes, and there's a lot more serious health conditions.
And that's just one case of one illness. So think how many illnesses and how many people are affected in different ways. So you're right.
There's
You're right,
loads of medicines, there's loads of medications out there, there's loads of vaccines, but at the end of the day, not what works for one person won't necessarily work for another. It's as simple as that.
How many of us here are ready to take a vaccination for COVID?
I'm not ready.
I'm not taking it. I'm not taking it.
What if this vaccine kills me? How do I know it's not going to kill me? How do I know it's not going to
I'm not ready.
You know what? Yeah, do you know what?
But there's a much higher chance that coronavirus will kill you.
Because I think sometimes if it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Have you heard of the other thing that Chad, what they're using to treat corona? Have you heard of the vitamin C thing?
The
Yes. Yes. I heard of high amount.
No, it's basically it's not nothing funny. Vitamin C. It's a higher dosage of vitamin C.
Intravenous, yeah. Intravenous vitamin C. That's how they did it in China still.
So basically, what the thing is, like, I know a nutritional therapist, innit, and she said everything is based from your diet. It comes from your diet. So because generally in the Western world, everyone's diet is shit.
Sebi said the same thing 20 years ago.
Yeah, well, I'm not even going to mention no one's name before people start getting triggered by it when you mention certain people's names. But I'm just saying, I've looked into more than one method in it, and it's not just one guy saying it. It's loads of people saying it, and there's a whole research behind it. And it's because basically all these illnesses come from, it's all to do with your immune system as well. So most of the people that get sick of corona or have died from it, have suppressed immune system. And some of the things that suppress them are the medicines they're taking for a condition. So it's like counterproductive. You know what I'm saying?
Like cancer treatment. Cancer treatment suppresses the fucking immune system.
So the thing is, that's what I'm saying. When people were saying about this contract we have, I'm thinking, but we're not even taught how to eat properly from a young age. Even in schools, we're giving crap food. Do you know how much greens we should be eating?
Why is healthy food more expensive than junk food?
Exactly.
Why have you only got one healthy store, one healthy aisle in the market? That should tell you everything. You go in a supermarket, there's one aisle for healthy food. What's the rest of the food then?
So when people talk about this contract, I'm thinking, who's it really set up to protect? Because if you're elite and you're getting good food, because you can't, if you're elite, no matter what you are, you can't protect yourself against illness. You know what I'm saying? But you can put shit food in poor areas and make them eat shit, and it can. You know what I'm saying? There's that control there. So it's mad to me. But like I said,
I want to say something just on and it kind of it's gonna maybe shock everyone on the whole way I've been coming at 5G this whole time, and it relates to all of this. But just I remember when I was at school being told by my teachers at school when they told us about cancer, that they told us a statistic that 1 in 3 people will know someone very close to them who has cancer in their life. Yeah. And then I remember years later seeing something on TV that was like 1 in 3 people will have cancer at some point in their life. And now the other day I saw it as 1 in 2. So that rate
made that case rise. What's made it rise?
Insane. And obviously I think there's loads of probably reasons to that. And obviously we probably don't, like, as a humanity, kind of fully understand what that is yet. Radiation could be part of it, etc. So I was kind of never disputing that maybe radiation is unhealthy for us and causing some of this kind of stuff. But I was kind of disputing just the specific confidence in that 5G is doing this, like, and it was like so direct and so quick that these claims they were making. Is there anyone here, I guess, just kind of against those 5G conspiracies, etc., who would still say like that's not a risk.
Can I just jump in quickly, yeah, and just
Say what's not a risk? Sorry, just let me hear the question.
No, go on.
The fact that 5G and 4G and any of them is gonna over our lifetimes give more people cancer, etc.
In the long term, not the short term. In the long term.
I can speak to that. Definitely.
Your phone, your devices. Sorry to cut people. Your phones, any device you've got is a risk.
Yeah.
So why, yeah, I know about the 5G conspiracies and whatever. Yeah, I'm open-minded, so I don't shut it down and think, no, that's just rubbish, blah blah blah. You don't know. But as far as I'm concerned, I mean, I was sent an audio, a 20-minute long audio, yeah, breaking down everything about coronavirus, 5G, what's going on, blah blah blah. Yeah, and some people might think, yeah, that's just bullshit. That's not even true. But why isn't it true? How do you know it's not true?
Yeah. If you're not done the legwork and you're not questioning it yourself, you can't turn around and say someone's chatting shit. You need to do the legwork yourself.
Let me hear Jacob respond to what I kind of put to him as well.
Okay, so the reason I can say categorically that the radiation that we're getting from our phones and from our devices so far isn't going to increase the rates of cancer is because there are the science that makes these things work doesn't interfere with the human body. It just doesn't because those waves can't penetrate the skin. They can't penetrate hair. They just can't.
Bro, on every single mobile.
And the way that's not gonna, I know that's not gonna carry on into the future, because the reason that cancer and stuff is increasing is because there are so many more carcinogens in our environment, in our atmosphere, in the food, in everything else. So you can't.
But wait. If it's in the food and these people are creating the food, why wouldn't they be in the vaccines? If you can't trust the food, if you cannot trust the supply chain of food, and these people, remember, decisions are made at the top, just like the decisions are made at the top for law, for vaccines, for everything else. So if you can't trust your food source, then why would you trust everything else, bro? Why is that one thing there? You can't trust that, but trust everything else with a blanket. Why would you do that? That would be very ignorant to do that, bro. So it's just about questioning, I suppose. It's about questioning.
Just jump in here. Yo, let me just talk about something here, yeah? Like, the reason people believe in these conspiracy theories in the first place is because of a distrust of authority. So a lot of people are like, how do you know this is going to happen? How do you know that's going to... It's all because we distrust authority. And conspiracy theories come from a gap between the people who govern us and the people they govern. Do you see what I'm saying? And the wider that gap gets, the more conspiracy theories appear. That's why you got all this 5G nonsense. It's completely harmless. Like, there's been guys who who install the 5G, going up to the installation centers, the mast and that, with a Geiger counter, putting them up to the fucking, and you have to be right next to the machine to get any kind of measurement altogether. So there's no way it can possibly harm you. But it's just.
But what about the independent people that have gone with the EMF machines and walked up and down?
Yeah, but what about the independent people that say the Earth is flat? They're fucking nuts, bro. Like.
Yeah, but they're nuts, bro. You can't. No, you can't turn around and say the Earth's flat without fucking proof, bro. Come on, man.
Hey, Bones, man like Chris has got an EMF machine. You're being disrespectful.
No, you know what, yeah. Well, let me just say one thing about 5G as well, yeah. If you look at the actual science behind it, it's actually quite inefficient compared to what we have now.
None of us understand science, bruv. That's the whole point.
No, you think this
I'm not a scientist, bro.
He's got a degree in fucking radiology and all that. No one.
No, listen,
I've got the knowledge. Let me explain it for a second.
Yeah,
where did you get the knowledge from, though, bro? This is where did you get that from?
Don't tell me you researched it. You best went to university.
From 15-20 years working with radio frequencies, with the technology. So basically, the way that 5G is different from 4G, 3G, 2G, and the G stands for generation. It's just the next generation. So the 5G is a wider bandwidth. It uses a wider range of frequencies at a higher frequency to get more information quickly, but because it's using a wider bandwidth and the range, the frequency is high,
it don't travel as far.
They can't travel as far.
Exactly. This is my point.
Hang on,
It's inefficient.
Hang on. You're saying it's inefficient. It's inefficient over long distances. It's incredibly efficient over short distances. It's not about long range. It's all about short range. If you're trying to use data outside, if you're not in London, if you're not in a city, 5G is useless to you, basically. At this point in time, anyway, and for a long
Jacob,
it's
can I
going to be
just
a
jump in?
long time before 5G is going to be usable to everybody, because a lot of people I don't live in a place where 5G is going to happen like anytime soon. I live in rural Wales, but I used to live in London. I am a Londoner.
I want to let Bones jump in.
All right, so Jacob, yeah, I mean, sorry, Chris, yeah, you're saying like it's inefficient, but then a fucking CB radio, yeah, is inefficient for talking to a satellite, bruv. Like things are courses for horses, you get me? So
no, exactly. I weren't able to finish my point. My point was, yeah, there's a lot of people that we're talking about it in a small window, in a narrow window. But when we're talking about 5G, when I talk about 5G being inefficient over a certain distance, I could talk on this as well, because I went to university also. You get me? So
I didn't go to uni.
Well, but it's irrelevant really, because it's not right for people to say we can't know about these things because either we're not a scientist or we didn't do this or we didn't do that.
But you can't be an authority on it, Chris. You can't be an authority on it because.
But that's fine. But that's fine. But that's fine. You can appeal to whatever authority you want to. Yeah. But I will read what I want to read and understand what I can understand and make my own choices based on that.
Of course you can.
So what I'm trying to explain is 5G is inefficient for what we need it, and that's the fact why they're having to put up so many more masts.
It's not though, because it gives us faster internet and more data can be transferred down the signal. Do you see what I'm saying? So it's not inefficient. You just need more masts. That's all.
No, but they need more masts and the infrastructure.
When is it going to be enough?
They need more masts because it works over shorter distances. It works highly efficiently, but over short distances. So you need loads of masts, right? 4G works over a longer range. 3G even longer. 2G even longer than that.
By the way, we got less than 10 minutes left. We need to wrap this up at 1:30. And we were just talking, saying maybe we'll do this again tomorrow and have a part 2.
You're mad blood.
I think we need to. But real
I don't know how we're gonna even have a wrap up. I'm probably gonna have to just go boom, goodbye.
Yeah.
Abby, what are you saying, Abby?
Oh yeah, Abby.
Abby, you're silent.
Muted. You're muted.
Oops. So, yes. Sarah Epiphany has joined us.
So Sarah going to jump in and say something.
Welcome, Sarah.
I'd like to. I'm just trying to find the right time to get in between it.
Oh, that's what it's been, girl.
Now's the time.
But yeah, what's your views, Sarah?
I think we are just thinking like Westerners, and aren't we lucky to be able to do that? Because people in Africa have been tested on, like it's a testing zone for a very long time, and here we are discussing whether we should or shouldn't take vaccines. So just putting it in perspective, that's even happening now, actually, and it's disgusting. Do I think I'm not going to take the vaccination? I'm not going to give my child the vaccination either. And as someone was making a point about us then being people that are unsafe around sick people, but it's an equal kind of scale, really, isn't it? Because they're unsafe around us, we're unsafe around them. Doesn't it work both ways? There isn't just one way to see it.
Yeah,
especially when you can still catch something if you've been vaccinated. That don't make sense.
Exactly. So what's the point?
The difference between you and them is if they can't take a vaccine, means they're immunodeficient. It means they've got something wrong, which means that if they get sick, they could die from something that you could just pass on and not be bothered.
I'm gonna put my head on a block here. I'm gonna put my head on a block here. People die all the time anyway, regardless, whether someone's sick or not. That's just the way it is, We have life cycles, as I've spoken about before. we don't live forever. And the idea that you're going to prevent someone from dying by serving them with particular medicines may work, but may not, you know. And also, in my eyes, it's just natural. It's nature. That's what happens, you know.
Yeah.
People die every day, B.
What do we do about that, you know?
Okay.
Can I make a point on the vaccine thing? Because when you lot were talking about it, I didn't get to, but basically, yeah, I wouldn't take it either. But that's not because I don't believe in vaccines. I just wouldn't take it because it ain't been tested, bruv. Like, I'm not being like Sarah was just saying, shit's been tested in Africa and it's gone horribly wrong before. Do you know what I mean? Like, how can you rush something out this quickly within the space of a couple of months and say, yeah, that's cool, it's calm for everyone to take it? Like, that is mad, bruv. Like, I'm not taking that for now, but I'll see how it goes. And if the guinea pigs are all right, then I'll do it. You get me?
Or would you not just do the vitamin C thing?
Women were
instead of
tested
the
in the
vaccine?
60s. They took the pill.
I get enough vitamin C.
These women had babies with no arms and no legs. Yeah, we really need to put things in perspective. Any coronavirus vaccine that has been created is, as far as I'm concerned, not even worthy of thinking about. But at least for all you people who do want to think about it, give it 2 years before you decide to take that.
Yeah, exactly. Give it time. You get me? It's not worth it.
Okay, let me put this into perspective. Before this century, before the last century, before the 1900s, right? Before modern medicine and modern science, more than 5% of everybody died violent deaths. Okay, they died horrible deaths. We had massive infant mortality rates. We had huge sicknesses. We had Spanish flu that fucking killed millions across the world.
Sorry,
We had
all of
loads of
your
shit.
information
How did
is
we get
based
rid of
on
Spanish flu again?
Europeans. It's based on Europeans. It's not based on African history, because
Or
African
Asian.
history is a lot deeper than that, you know?
Yeah,
No, that's
it
world
comes down to
history. I'm talking about world history.
Well, it
No,
comes
you're
down
not
to
talking about world
sanitation,
history. You can never talk
sanitation and
about world
diet.
history. You
How
can
did
never
they get rid
talk
of
about world
Spanish flu?
history.
There's no vaccination.
Sanitation and diet. Sanitation and diet. It's got
You
nothing
cannot
to do
talk
with
about world
vaccines or nothing.
history.
Thank you, brother.
You cannot. I'm sorry. You can't talk about world history. That's not possible.
World history is not unequal, man.
Jacob, she's right to the
Can I
extent
talk? Can I say
when
something
you're
in
saying
regards to now?
like Spanish flu and the plague, that wasn't happening in Australia, that wasn't happening in South America, it wasn't happening in Africa, and especially in Sub-Saharan.
No, dude. I'm not talking about the plague. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about before modern medicine, before science, before things were actually moving forward. So how are you going to?
Ancient Egyptians have been practicing science.
Wait, let him
blah,
finish.
blah, blah, blah. Okay, I get that. You're saying it's just nature. You're saying it's just nature. Just nature was happening before this century, before modern medicine. Now we're having modern medicine, and nature
everybody
isn't
wants
just
to put
happening.
labels
We're
on
actually able
things.
to save
That's
people's
right.
lives. We've dropped infant mortality around the world.
Hold on,
because of
Jacob,
that.
hold on 1 minute. Did you know that the Moors taught the Europeans to bathe? Did you know that?
Right. Okay.
I'm sorry.
This is coming.
What I'm trying to say.
This is like.
What I'm trying to say is, it comes down to sanitation and diet. And like what people are trying to explain is that it's not about when science started and when medicine started and this. It's like, if people had the knowledge about what you eat and how you clean yourself, them diseases weren't happening. And in Europe and in the West, they weren't cleaning themselves properly and they weren't eating properly. So I think that's what you're missing, kind of thing, when you talk about, before modern medicine and all this kind of stuff. You get me? These things are happening in Africa.
Bro, food is medicine. Food is medicine. Trust me. Not processed shit, but food is medicine. There's like, I feel there's a cure out there in nature for everything.
100%.
And also, if we believe there's a cure for everything, then sick people are sick for a reason as well. We have to accept that, right?
Do you know how we get those cures? Do you know how we get those natural cures, though? Do you know how we get those natural cures? We don't just go out and eat plants, because not everybody can just go out and eat plants. We get researchers to go out into the jungle, into the rainforest.
You got tribes that have not been contacted for 2,000 years.
I could list you a couple plants you should eat right now. I could list you some plants you should eat.
Everyone, this is the last minute of this.
How did we get here?
By the way, when it cuts off, we're all still going to be here. It just won't be live anymore. So I will just talk to everyone and we'll maybe organize doing this again tomorrow. I would love Sarah to be here from earlier on, because she's coming with a great energy.
Wait, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you, bro.
Can I say something? Yeah. You know what you were saying in regards to medicine before, yeah. You know now, I don't know the statistic exactly, yeah, but I read it. But they say roughly 9 million people every year die from hunger-related deaths.
Yeah, 9.3 every year.
9 million, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Right. Even if it was 1 million, that's a shitload more. Excuse my language. That's a shitload more than even the worst scenario of what's going to happen now. I'm not taking anything away from what's happening, but would the world pause fix that problem? What's the vaccine?
As I was talking about before.
For hunger.
Bro, do you not remember Nostradamus thing when it
you know
burnt
what I
down
mean?
and they got 2 billion in 2 days?
But Zoom
Come
was
on, man.
like it was long to sort out the Zoom.
Hunger.
I'm gonna have to cut it. We're gonna have to
What do you mean?
I'm gonna cut the live. Yeah, I just want to say.
Yeah. Go on. I just wanted to at least say something before it finished, but yeah.
100%. I'll get in here earlier when we do it tomorrow. I'll send you the link. But everyone who's watching, I wanted to cut it here as well because Genesis Elijah is about to do his show on Hip Hop UK TV. He is about to interview Tommy Evans. I'm gonna jump over there and go and watch that right now. We're gonna probably do this again tomorrow, and big up everyone who's kind of got involved because that was kind of epic. I've been getting messages while this is on.
Big up my cousin Precious.
Yeah, man.
I'm gonna watch it back and see what you lot were saying.